Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being on time. I just want to give a shout out to the folks who were in the waiting room. I had some folks who were in here 20, 30 minutes early. Now, in the future, you do not have to get here that early, but I just want to thank you for showing up, for being on time. And I'm going to honor that by making sure that we wrap up either early or exactly on time. But in either of those cases, I'm going to make sure that you get what you came for. If you all are ready to get into this anxiety thing and understand it better, I want to see some ones in the chat. I want to see some comments. What y'all got for me? Let me know how y'all feeling. What's going on in here? Okay, okay. Oh, wow. Somebody said, I'm feeling a little anxious right now. And guess what? This is the place where that is okay. We're going to be doing an exercise together a little bit later. We're going to be doing something called PQ reps. So we're going to do that together later. And hopefully during this time as well, you are going to start to feel a little more comfortable. You know, sometimes when we're super, super excited, the body doesn't know the difference and it interprets it as anxiety when actually whew, it's probably just a lot more excitement than our bodies can hold. And so that is okay too. Whatever the case is, you are amongst friends. This is a loving, safe environment. And I just want to welcome you all and thank you so much for being here. I also want to take a moment to introduce myself. I am Coach Aziza Binti. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me a little later, but I just want to welcome you to the space and thank you for taking the time to be here. It is so important that we learn how to and practice regularly showing up for ourselves. And so I just want to give you all a round of applause for showing up for yourself this evening. It really means a lot to me that you're here, but more importantly, I'm glad you're here for you because I want to give you as much as I can without overloading you, that you can actually take this out into the world and use it for your benefit. All right. I definitely want to make sure that I do that. So, there are a lot of things that I could have called this workshop. I could have called it Turning Anxiety into Your Superpower because we're going to talk about why anxiety is a superpower. I could have called it All the Ish That You Thought Made You Anxious that's actually trying to help you because that's a real thing too. And finally, I could have called it How to Stop Pretending You're Fine When You're Not. And I love that somebody said, I'm actually feeling a little anxious right now. This is a safe space for you to share that. And speaking of safe spaces, I want to make sure that you understand that I am the only one that can see your video. It's just me and you. That's right. I'm the only one that can see your video. However, I'm not the only one that can see your comments. So if there's anything that you want to share that you want to keep private, if there's something you want to ask me anonymously that you want me to answer during the workshop, but you want it to remain anonymous, please do send me a private message. Otherwise, if you put it in the main chat, other people may comment on it and things like that. In terms of commenting on other people's comments, please be incredibly respectful in this space because if you are not, you will get the boot. I don't play about mine, and y'all are mine for this time. So we want to be respectful. If somebody doesn't know something and you know, it's not the time to say, oh, I can't believe you didn't know that, or why would you say that? This is not the space for that. This is where we show up full out and we're also loving and compassionate to those who are also here trying to understand themselves better as well. So we want to keep this a safe space. Okay. I'm going to try to get to as many questions as I possibly can. I'm actually going to pull from, we got another screen over here that you all can't see. I'm going to pull from some questions from the last Anxiety Unlocked. That was Anxiety Unlocked, the dopest ish you never heard about anxiety. We're going to cover a lot of the same things, but I'm also going to do a little bit of a deeper dive on some of the questions that I got asked last time that I did not have time to talk about more. And people private messaged me and did say that they wish that I had had more time. So I want to make sure that I get to those as well. And the questions that you all have here live. So we got a jam-packed session going on here. So again, I am Coach Aziza Binti, founder and lead coach of Choose Your Own Adventure Coaching. I am a certified success coach, ICF certified success coach, as well as a certified Missouri peer specialist. All right. So aside from that, I'm also somebody who is in recovery from severe anxiety, including generalized anxiety disorder, as well as social anxiety. And to just share a little bit of my story, I had a debilitating back injury. And for around 10 years or so, I was often off and on walkers, canes, not being able to move at all. I had a serious hunch at one point because I just could not hold myself up. It was just a very painful time in my life. And so I made the decision finally to have spine surgery in 2015. And unfortunately, I woke up from that surgery paralyzed, and it was devastating. I was a documentary filmmaker and photographer at the time, and my passion and purpose in life was to change the world through documentary filmmaking and photography, to help people feel seen and heard, and to share their stories on a massive scale. And here I was. In this hospital bed, actually upside down, because of the surgery that they had to do. I had lost some spinal fluid. They had to sew up, it's called a dura. I had a dura tear, and they had to sew that up. And so you have to be at an incline, upside down, basically, for about 24 hours. And so I woke up that way, and it was devastating to find out that I could not move my legs. I had no feeling from the waist down. I also had hands that shook horribly. That was the thing I think that scared me the most, that my hands were shaking, because like in the moment, yes, I can't walk, I can't move my legs. That really sucks. But the way I'm sort of processing it in my mind is, well, I don't need legs to do photography. I can scoot around in a wheelchair. But my hands were shaking so bad that scared me, because I'm like, how will I ever hold a camera again? And so it was like my life flashed before my eyes. My mother was there, my best friend was there, and they were all excited, not realizing that I was paralyzed in the moment. Once my surgeon realized that I was, he was really upset, visibly upset, which made me super nervous because he's nervous, and then the nurse is nervous, and I'm freaking out. And, I later found out that surgery, instead of the hour and a half that it was supposed to take, with me going home that night, because I came in for surgery around, I don't know, 6 in the morning. So I was supposed to be leaving that night. Instead of that happening, I was paralyzed, and I was informed that the surgery was 4.5 hours. And in fact, they had to chisel a piece of my tissue in my spine. And so basically what happened is, what was supposed to be soft was supposed to be the disc, which is squishy. Part of it had actually turned to bone. It had calcified and had begun tearing at my dura, and that's why I was losing spinal fluid. They had no way of knowing how much spinal fluid I had lost prior to the surgery, and really no idea how much I had lost during the surgery, as they frantically tried to sew up the dura. And so there was no prognosis for me. Two of the most terrifying words I'd ever heard a person speak, and two of the most liberating words I'd ever heard a person speak. My surgeon told me that he had no prognosis for me. Now, the way he said it, I was pissed. And we got into it about that, and he apologized later, but he was so frustrated. This is his last surgery. And so he was like really upset that, this surgery didn't go well. He's getting ready to leave his residency and, move to the South. And here it is, his last patient is paralyzed. And he frustratingly said, Aziza, I don't know. We don't have there's no prognosis, when I pressed him about what's going on with my body. And I later explained to him, of the two of us, I was much more upset because this was my body. My body had undergone this surgery, and my future was at stake. But those words were actually more liberating to me than I ever realized in the moment, because no prognosis in his mind and in my mind at the time meant there was just no future for me. I had no idea what would happen. And for me, what it meant was, if he doesn't have a prognosis for me, I damn sure better have one for myself. And that's really sort of at the core of like how I coach. It's the core of how I support people. It's the core of how I navigate anxiety and am still alive to do so. It's the core of how I've navigated depression and am still alive to do so. I choose the prognosis. And if I don't feel like I can choose it, if I feel like I'm lost, then I know how to ask for help so that somebody can help me remember that I'm the one that gets to choose. And so as a coach, I help people get back in the driver's seat to know that they are the ones that get to choose, right? Choosing your own adventure. See, it all came full circle. I was not a coach at the time that I was dealing with the worst anxiety in my life, nor was I a coach at the time when I had this spine surgery. So not only was there the physical paralysis, but there's the emotional paralysis of anxiety. And anxiety felt like it was going to swallow me whole. It felt like no matter how much I created, no matter how smart I was, no matter how good I was, it was never enough, because I had this anxiety just kind of nipping at me, keeping me from the life that I really wanted. The social anxiety was debilitating. The physical pain was debilitating. It was just all too much. However, in the end, all of those experiences heavily influenced the coach that I am, the friend that I am, the aunt that I am, the everything that I am. And I'm so grateful for that and grateful for this opportunity to be here with you all today. So, what are we going to be talking about today? I want to see in the chat. Let me know if you are feeling like anxiety has just gotten on your damn nerves and you are ready to learn some things to make that shift. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Okay, okay. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm glad that that story was inspiring to you. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Ah, that is so sweet. Yes. Yes, I'm glad that I am here too, and I'm glad that you are here. Absolutely. I'm seeing ones in the chat. I'm seeing hearts. Oh, thank you guys. Just so much love and support. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for showing up for yourselves as well. So, what's up for today? Number one, what the fuck is really going on with anxiety? How it helps, how it harms, and what it teaches. And if you haven't guessed already, I cuss a little bit. And by a little, we'll see if it stays a little. All right. Two, how can anxiety be your superpower? How can it be a superpower? It absolutely positively can. And I'm going to show you all about that. And then also, of course, our live Q&A, like I said, answering questions from before, a little bit deeper dive, and then also answering some live questions here. So, what is anxiety and who is impacted? I'm not going to read all of this. It's on the screen. When you see this replay later, you can always pause it and read it if you like, or read it as we speak. But the short answer is everybody. Anxiety impacts everybody and in various ways. It doesn't always look the same. There have been times where I'm having a full-blown panic attack and I tell somebody about it later and they're like, "Well, you look like you was real calm." Yeah, on the outside. So anxiety doesn't always look like this sister on the picture here, or y'all freaking out. Sometimes it looks like you are subdued. Sometimes it looks like you could care less. That's another thing I used to get accused of. Like, you just act like you don't care. I really cared. I cared so much that it overloaded me. It overwhelmed me. And so it looked like I was aloof or just really wasn't interested. Or another thing I was accused of, which was accurate. I'm not saying accused of as if I wasn't doing this, but another thing was being stoic. being very stoic, trying to control all of my emotions, not let anything out. And the way that that comes across is that I don't care, that I don't love this person, that I'm not interested in this person, when really I'm just trying to control what feels totally out of control for me. So we're going to talk about like the different ways that anxiety shows up, because I think that's like super important, because when you think that anxiety has to look a certain way, you might not realize that you are being impacted by anxiety because it doesn't look this one way, and it can look a lot of different ways depending on the traumas that people have experienced in the past, depending on what's happening with them right now, depending on their understanding of themselves, depending on what has been socially acceptable for their gender, for their race, for their socioeconomic background, for their family history. Like there's a lot of different things that impact how anxiety is going to show up for us. We're also going to talk a little bit about the fact that anxiety is a symptom. It is not the cause of your distress. Many people go around chasing the different symptoms that anxiety brings about, not realizing that anxiety in and of itself is a symptom. So for me, I used to have like my heart felt like it was going to beat right out of my chest. It would beat so hard, it hurt my chest. Sometimes I would hear ringing in my ears, migraines, gastrointestinal problems, really bad stomach upsets or cramps. Sometimes I would have a resurgence of pain for an injury that's already healed. I might feel that in my body. It could be a lot of different things. Feeling really antsy, also being very controlling. Anxiety would show up for me in how I had to control everything around me, and even trying to control people around me. Anxiety even used to show up in a way that I would push people away. Like if they did even the smallest thing that made me feel unsafe emotionally or worried or whatever, I might end a friendship with them, or push them away. So I want to pause right there. So I just ran through a bunch of, okay, all right. I was about to ask a question. Y'all answering before before I ask it. Yes, totally understand what it's like to try to control everything. Absolute control freak. Yes. Yes. And I did not realize that that's how I was either. Some good friends and some exes had to make me aware of that. And I have to be honest, I took the feedback better from my friends than from my exes. When friends kind of sat me down and let me know how this was showing up and negatively impacting the friendship, it really, really hit home. I wish it had hit home when my exes said it, but it didn't. And that's just how it was. All right, so let's see. Okay. Yep. You know exactly what that's like. I thought that was just me with the heart. Yes, it's not just you. Oh my goodness. It feels like it's just gonna, it feels like something's like trying to punch out of my chest, an alien's trying to get out of my chest or something. So yes, I totally, totally can relate to that. And some of my clients have that as a symptom as well. Stomach upset, didn't realize that that's what that has to do with. I'm realizing that happened yesterday. Wow. Okay. So you experienced some severe stomach upset. Yeah. Yeah. That difficult gut feeling that doesn't feel like the kind of gut feeling where it's going to help you make a decision, but it feels like it's sort of paralyzing you emotionally. Yeah. I totally get this. My daughter struggles with this a lot, and she seems like she doesn't really care about what's going on, but I know inside she's really struggling. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So I'm glad you all are getting it, whether it's you or somebody else in your life where you're noticing that that's coming up. That can be really hard. Something that can be difficult too is that and so I'm glad that, yes, I'm glad that you mentioned about your daughter. So sometimes if we have friends or family members that are, dealing with some anxiety, we might just want to say, you know what, you just got to push through. You just got to fight it. You got to believe in yourself. You can't let it take over your life. That's not helpful. That's not helpful. It's not helpful. If that person could do that, they would have already done it. They're not capable of doing that in that moment. They do not need platitudes. You're going to be okay. It's fine. That's not going to work. That's not going to help. One, they're probably hardly going to be able to hear you. And if they can hear you, that's probably just going to upset them or make us feel like I can't show you my full anxiety. And I'm gonna be honest with you. There are some people that I do not disclose my anxiety to. If I am feeling anxious, I will not disclose it to them because they have their own issues with anxiety, and their response to me expressing anxiousness is to try to caretake of me, kind of coddle me, and also like laying on a lot of platitudes, constantly sort of babying me like, oh, it's gonna be okay, you're fine, I'm here. And I'm like, I don't need all of that. And maybe somebody else does. I do not. Okay. So, because my distress will cause them to feel really distressed and they're not able to regulate that in their lives just yet, I'm sure they'll finally get to that point, but currently they're not able to. I don't really disclose my feelings of anxiety with them. However, I have many people that I can. One of my best friends, Sherry, I can reach out to her and say, look, I'm feeling really anxious. She's like, okay, I'm here. What's going on? She's just going to listen. And that's super valuable to just listen. Just listen to folks. You do not have to fix what is going on. You don't need to tell them everything's fine. They're going to be okay. It's important to just be there and to listen. I hear you. I'm with you. Is there anything that I can do to support you right now? Where are you feeling it in your body? That's a really helpful question to ask someone who's experiencing anxiety. One, because it means that we have to pause for a moment and, oh, good Lord, we need a pause. It means we get to pause for a moment and scan our body and notice where we're feeling the anxiety most. And that is a grounding activity. And so the person might say, I just feel it everywhere. I get that. Is there anywhere you feel it more than another place? Okay. How can I support you? Those are great things to say when someone's experiencing anxiety, rather than trying to like push them through it and tell them everything's going to be okay. They don't feel okay right now. And you need to regulate your own emotions because you might be feeling stressed that they're stressed. So it's important that you regulate for yourself. We're going to do an exercise together, as I mentioned before, to help you with that. And that can be really useful when you're with another person who is feeling dysregulated so that they don't dysregulate you, or that you manage your own dysregulation so it doesn't make things worse for either one of you. All right. So, anxiety by the numbers. I'm not going to read all of these, but I just have this slide here to point out the fact that millions of people around the world are navigating anxiety. I want to make sure that you all understand that it is totally okay that you don't feel okay all the time, and what it looks like in your life, that there are many, many other people who feel it too. You are not alone. One of the things folks don't understand, and this is the reason that anxiety really is a superpower, because anxiety points the way to the distress. Anxiety is not the cause of the distress. Anxiety is letting us know that something is misaligned, that something is not the way that it needs to be for our best and our wellness. Okay. So, how does that even happen? Well, here's the thing. When we have experienced adverse childhood experiences when we were growing up, or trauma, or a recent trauma. So it's not always just something that happened when you were younger. There can be a recent trauma. If it is severe enough, it can cause us to really start experiencing anxiety. For some people, post-traumatic stress disorder. It can really dysregulate our nervous systems. Our amygdalas can just kind of be out of control as a result of this anxiety, right? As a result of, rather, not the anxiety, but as a result of what has happened and how we have interpreted it. So it's important to understand that anxiety is a symptom. It is not the cause, okay? Anxiety is letting us know where the love needs to go, where the healing needs to go, where the misalignment is, so that we can have the shifts that we need so that we can get better. Period. That is why anxiety is a superpower, because it lets us know, wait a minute, I feel really anxious when XYZ is going on. You know what? I feel really just so nervous about this thing. We need to know where that is so that we can see what it is tied to. I met someone the other day, and they were talking about the fact that they put a mask on emotionally when they go out somewhere to navigate their social anxiety. They said, if I just put a mask on, I kind of pretend like I'm acting, because this person is an actress. They're like, I pretend that I'm someone else. And so one of the things that I realize is we all will do that from time to time. And for some of us, every single time. And what it's related to is we'd rather do that and have someone reject the mask than reject us. There's this belief that we're already going to be rejected. I know with social anxiety for me, there's this worry about what people are going to think about what I have on, what people are going to think about. What do I do with my hands? There's always, do I put them in my pocket? Do I put one hand in my pocket, one hand on my side? What, one on my cell phone? What do I do? Right? Like, so there's all this nervousness about these really simple things, but they're causing, or I'm experiencing a lot of distress related to them. Right. And so we would rather be rejected for the mask that we wear than to be totally emotionally vulnerable and open with people, because somewhere along the line, we were open emotionally and we got hurt really bad. And so our amygdala got the message that it is bad to do that, because if you open up, you're going to be ostracized. If you open up, then people are not going to like you. If you open up and show your real self, then you're not going to be safe. And we know the amygdala in the brain is responsible for keeping us safe. And one of the things that is the most unsafe to the human brain is being disconnected from other humans. And so it feels like if whatever I'm doing is going to cause me to not be able to be around other humans, then I don't need to do that at all. Then I just cannot do it. It's just too dangerous. And this isn't something we're consciously aware of. We don't even realize it's happening. But evolutionarily, this part of the brain has developed to make sure that we are connected to other humans and at whatever cost. And that's the dangerous part. We see it with young kids where they are hanging out with people who are not healthy for them and doing really negative things because they want to be a part of a crowd. That is a result of evolution. That is a result of that part of our brain. It will do whatever, if not properly trained. It will do whatever to keep us connected to other people, or the reverse. I can't be connected to any people. They are all dangerous. So what happens is you end up on one end of the spectrum or the other. Either I'll do whatever to be around other humans. I will people please. I will be dishonest about what I really want and need. I will morph myself into whoever I think they need me to be. Or the other end of the spectrum, F everybody. I don't care nothing about these people. And I'm just going to stay to myself. That's the safest thing to do. Either way, you on one end of the spectrum or the other, and it's not healthy. And so when that's going on, there can be a lot of anxiety in either case. Either being around people makes you anxious, even though you would love to be connected with people and feel safe around people, you don't. Or being around people makes you feel unsafe because you just feel like they're going to reject you anyway, so you might as well reject them first. Does anybody in the chat know what I'm okay? All right, here we go again. I'm not looking at the chat, I'm looking right at the camera, and I'm not seeing that y'all are just lighting this thing up. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Some folks are saying they're noticing this must have been a challenge that their ex was having. Okay, all right. Yeah. So here's the thing too. Some of you all indicated when you signed up for the workshop that you don't feel like you presently are dealing with anxiety. And so you came here for someone else, basically like to understand what it's like for other people. For those of you all, I really want to know, for those of you all who did that, can you tell me if you feel like you've heard yourself in what I'm saying, that now you realize you're not just here for somebody else, you might be here for you? Okay. Me. Yes. Okay. Absolutely. Glad I came. Yeah. So you came for somebody else, you're staying for yourself. I love it. I'm so grateful that you're here. It's sort of a key piece of like why I even share all this stuff, to really just help people in that way. That's really, really important, to help folks see that even if you don't think you might be dealing with anxiety, it's likely that you may experience some, and it could just be that you didn't understand all of the ways that it shows up. So, what does anxiety look like? We have talked a ton about the different ways that anxiety can look, right? So it can look like somebody freaking out, sweating, rubbing their palms together, sort of anxiously moving around, biting their nails, right? But it can also look like somebody being stoic. That was my number one go to, right? I'm just going to shut down all the emotions so I can stay safe, which doesn't feel good to the person on the receiving end of stoicism, right? Or I might try to control things. We talked a lot about that, like how that can look and how harmful it can be for the people on the other end of that. And it's also harmful to us because it makes it difficult for us to have the kind of relationships with people that we would like. When it comes to work, sometimes it can show up in an inability to appropriately process feedback, to take it very personally. It can also show up in people pleasing at work, where you just willing to do everybody's work because you're so scared of losing that job, so scared of losing how people see you as the go-to person, and you just want to do all the things. And so you may be anxiously doing things you don't even really want to do, and that can be really emotionally taxing and draining. Yes, absolutely. I'm seeing that in the chat. You saying that's me. Oh, wow. Wow. You took on a project this weekend and you took time out to be here. Thank you. I'm so grateful to you for showing up for you. You had that huge project, and you're here. You're here for you doing this. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we talk about how anxiety looks. Let me ask y'all, are any of these people anxious? Let me know in the chat. Are any of these people anxious? What y'all think? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. You you all like, I don't know, probably, could be, maybe, absolutely. I remember when a good friend who was in her master's of psychology program had asked me if I ever heard of social anxiety. And I told her it was something that white people got. I was like, oh, nah. Right. And I didn't consider the source, right? I didn't consider that this particular friend wasn't just a friend, but also she was working ultimately towards her PhD, which she did, in fact, get. And so I remember doing some research online. I'm like, what's she talking about? Social anxiety? I ain't got no social anxiety. I'm going to look it up. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's me. Because I didn't realize that it was not just that you might freak out at a party or whatever. Because I was thinking, no, when I get out with people, I'm the life of the party. I have a good time. I'm dancing and talking to people. Yes, once I get there, sometimes, not all the time. As I've gotten older, sometimes I do experience the anxiety while I'm there, and I'll get pretty quiet and reserved. I've noticed that that's happened before. But when I was younger, once I got out there and I was at the party, I was having a wonderful time. People would always ask my exes, like, why don't you bring her around more? And of course, my ex was looking like, you don't know what it is like trying to get this girl out of the house. But I would have like really bad stomach aches, migraines, flu-like symptoms, all the things, change my outfits 65 times, iron 7 or 8 different outfits, switch them around, and not in a way like, you trying to be cute and you switching around. No, I would be in a panic that one color versus another would look this way. I also would experience some body dysmorphia in that I really could not see myself well. It's so wild. Like when I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety, I look different to myself than I really actually look. Right. And so, it can show up in a lot of different ways. So you see these people here, they chilling. One group of people, they're at a little party and laughing and smiling. That doesn't mean that nobody there is experiencing anxiety. Somebody else is watching TV with their family, or either maybe a group of friends. It doesn't mean they're not experiencing anxiety. So I'm hoping that you all are okay. In the chat again, yep, this resonates. Good stuff. I love that. Yeah, yeah. And I see you all messaging each other in the chat, which I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for being a part of creating like community here. That is huge because healing happens in community. We need to know that we are not alone. And I know it can feel so scary when you're navigating anxiety. It can feel like you are alone. It's just you. You are not alone. You did not get yourself into this, and you need help from community to navigate through it. Someone planted seeds of lack of confidence, anxiety, overwhelm, whatever into you. It's not your fault. You were not born this way, okay? This is not your fault. You had help getting this way, help, and you're going to need loving help, encouragement, and support to navigate through this, okay? Because anxiety, again, is a superpower. It is here to actually help you in ways that you may not have realized before. So, when we talked about sort of understanding, like the whole point of you being here at this workshop is to try to understand anxiety either for yourself or for someone else. And as you all have mentioned in the chat, you might have came for somebody else, but you're staying for yourself now. And so you're not going to understand every single piece of what's going on with you when it comes to anxiety because you don't need to. It is irrelevant. Okay. I want you to know that it is irrelevant because anxiety is a superpower. When you feel anxious about certain things and you are able to slow down a bit and offer yourself some compassion, you will be able to understand yourself better little by little. It does not happen overnight. It just does not. I talked to someone the other evening and they were saying how they're just going to fight through their anxiety. And somebody taught them that they needed to fight as opposed to love on themselves and learn what it's like to be compassionate and kind and gentle with you. So I want to offer you the opportunity to really understand what it looks like to be compassionate with and for yourself. Slowing down, taking a breath, and you might choose to do that with me right now. Grounding yourself where you are right now. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're right here with this particular group of people right now. And it's important that you give yourself grace. You may not have received the grace and the compassion that you needed when you were growing up. The people who were supposed to teach you how to be compassionate to yourself as an adult did not teach you when you were little. They did not show you what that compassion looked like for many of you. Maybe not everyone here, but everyone that I know who navigates anxiety, everyone that I know would find a workshop like this very useful, has told me that they did not receive the emotional support that they really needed when they were growing up. And this doesn't mean that you were physically or even emotionally abused. But what it does mean is there were some gaps. And so you filled in the gaps. You showed up for yourself as much as you possibly could. And what that looks like is survival. And what this can look like, using anxiety as your superpower, can look like healing and love. So I want to offer us an opportunity to do an exercise together, okay? It's just going to take us a couple of minutes. I want you to go ahead and shake out a little bit if there's any sort of tension or anything. You've been sitting for a while. Just let those shoulders move, let your fingers move, your toes, your legs. Shift your hips a little bit, whatever you need to do. We're going to take 3 nice deep breaths together. One more. And now, if you like, I want you to close your eyes. If you choose to keep your eyes open, whatever you're looking at, do so with a diffuse look. Don't focus heavily on it. Sort of look past it, if you will. I want you to bring all of your attention to the rising and falling of your chest or stomach. Release any thoughts you may be having. Now I want you to shift all of your attention to the furthest sound that you can hear. Bring all of your attention to the furthest sound that you can hear. Release any thoughts you may be having. Now bring all of your attention to the closest sound that you can hear. Bring all of your attention to the closest sound that you can hear. Release any thoughts you may be having. Just let them float above you. If you have not begun to hear the sound of your own breathing, listen to the sound of your own breathing. Let go of any thoughts you may be having. Excellent job. You may now open your eyes and return to me. So, you know what I'm going to ask, and you all are already commenting. That was relaxing. You almost fell asleep. That's okay. That's okay. What we did there was a few PQ reps, positive intelligence quotient. And those reps are designed to help you retrain your brain and increase your mental fitness, to help you to train your brain to focus where you would like it to. I want to ask too, and I'm seeing some of you mention this, I want to ask all of you, did anybody have trouble focusing their attention where I asked you to bring your attention? Yes. It was really hard. I couldn't do it at all. Okay. So I love that. I'm so glad I got that comment. I love when I do, so that I can let you know. If you are doing it at all, you are doing it right. So yes, Your first several times doing this, or if you're frustrated or overwhelmed or sad or whatever, your mind is going to wander more than when you already feel relaxed and peaceful and calm. That is totally okay. It's just like when you're in the gym and they add more weights to the barbells that you're lifting. All it's doing is increasing the resistance on your muscles, and the fact that you feel the tension as you're pulling is not an indication that you're doing it wrong. It's not like, oh, it wasn't easy to do, and so that means you're not good at lifting weights. No, it's perfectly okay for you to feel that tension. And so, yes, every time your mind wanders, the fact that you notice that it was wandering, that's key. And every time it wandered, you brought it back. I will tell you that for your first time, if that's your first time ever doing that, you're actually probably better off than someone who was able to keep their mind clear the entire time, because you were actually increasing your mental fitness because you were consistently rerouting your brain back to where you wanted it to, even if it didn't stay there long. Eventually, you doing that is going to allow the amount of time that your brain listens to you and your conscious direction, the amount of time that you're able to consciously hold your own attention as you would like to is going to increase over time. So you did it perfectly, my dear. You did nothing wrong at all. So I want to hear let me see. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. You want to do you want to do some more of those. Cool, cool, cool. Well, I got news for you. You can actually listen to some more of those on my podcast. I have a 2 minute and a 5 minute one. You can listen to those. You can find that on any podcast platform. Aziza Binti Live, just my first name, last name, and then the word Live. And you can listen to that anytime. And I'm going to share some more stuff about like what I do and all that juicy stuff. But I want to actually get to the questions. So I told you I have a little board here that's got some questions, and then also I want to get to your questions. So we'll get to yours first because you are here, and then we'll do more of a deep dive in some of these other questions that I wanted to speak to more in this particular workshop that I didn't get to last time. So okay. All right, questions. Boy, you all are just bravo, bravo to all of you. All right. So, okay. Yeah. You said anxiety is not a cause, it's a symptom. Can you explain? Yes. So anxiety is not the cause of your distress. Anxiety is the symptom that lets you know that something is misaligned. And so, for instance, when I'm feeling this, I was feeling a lot of this social anxiety the other day. Actually, you know what? Probably a better example was I had a panic attack several weeks ago, and I think it was just a few days or so before the last workshop, and you know it freaked me out because I hadn't had a panic attack in a long time. And I was driving on the highway, and I'm like, "Oh my god, what's going on?" And so once I was able to get off the highway, slow down a bit, do some PQ reps like the ones that we did here together today, the next thing I needed to do was to be compassionate with myself, because the saboteurs in me were like, "This is so stupid. You were on the way to class, and now you've had to pull off the highway. What's wrong with you?" And the sage in me reminded me that there's nothing wrong with me. Something has happened that reminds me of something else that happened long ago. And that part of me would like to heal today. And so I was really compassionate with myself. I gave myself the room and space that I needed. And I sat there as long as I needed to, because like I was really nervous because I was going to be late to class, and lots of people were late to that class before. I'd never been late. It was not that big a deal. It was going to be okay. It wasn't the end of the world. But that perfectionism in me wanting to hyperachieve, that's one of the saboteurs, the hyperachiever, was really riled up. And so I just gave myself the compassion that I needed. And that was super, super helpful for me. And so it also let me know that I was having there was some stuff going on that I was not comfortable with, and I was misaligned. And that's where that anxiety was coming from. Now, I didn't come to that day. What was helpful that day was, me showing myself compassion and then getting to class, and then my best friend asking me, "Are you okay?" and saying out loud, "I am not okay." And having her hear that and say, "How can I support you?" Right? That was super helpful. And so later that week, it began to sort of unravel. I started to realize, wow, I'm making a huge transition, and part of me is really afraid of what will happen in this transition. What the superpower was is that the hyperachiever showed up. We have to do this thing, we have to get there. And because it was so loud and so prevalent, it let me know, wait a minute, there's something going on with achieving and overachieving and having to push through and do something. And I just started my own business. I just left my job. I just left my full-time job and just decided to start my business. I'd made some changes with friends in my life, and there was just a lot of transition. And I hadn't recently slowed down enough to recognize that. And so that's how, long story short, that's how anxiety is a superpower, because it points the way by giving you that information. And that's how, to your question, about that, like that's really how it shows up. So thank you for that. um Another question here. um mm, when is anxiety a helpful helper help sorry when is anxiety a helpful helper, and when is it a lie keeping me from living more fully? So here's the thing: anxiety is always telling you the truth. You wasn't ready for that one, was it? So the saboteurs in you may lie, but the feeling of anxiety is about misalignment, and that is true. That is an honest to God truth that is happening right then and there. The lie comes from the saboteurs, which are really trying to keep you safe. So the whole thing is all about keeping you safe. The amygdala in your brain is trying to keep you safe in the way that it has been programmed poorly regarding safety. So you would likely be perfectly fine going to your cousin's barbecue, okay? Unless it's like real hood and some wild stuff going on. But in general, you're probably going to be safe going to that barbecue. Here's the thing: if anything negative had happened in the past, like perhaps there was some sort of abuse or whatever, and this party reminds you of that, but you're not aware of it because you're feeling so anxious, then it feels like there's a lie being told, that you're going to get hurt, that something's bad is going to happen, right? It feels like there's a lie. But the thing is, the truth is, there was some hurt, like there's something there. And the anxiety, if we don't know how to regulate our nervous system, which is like part of what we did earlier together with the rising and falling of your chest or stomach, listening for the furthest sound, the closest sound. If we don't know how to do that, then we're going to chase the symptom all around, and we may fall victim to some lies that are being told, and we might miss out on that nugget, that superpower, that information that's really there for us. So let's see. I've got another one here. I feel some days I can manage anxiety well during the day. Once I'm asleep, anxiety decides to Mike Tyson me all night. How can I set myself up for better rest? Woo! All right. I want to see in the chat how many people can relate. Give me a one. Give me some yeses, hearts, whatever you want to say. Cool, cool, cool. Yes, I know exactly what that is like. And that is one of the saboteurs. Restless saboteur. So feeling like you cannot sleep at night, feeling really overwhelmed. One of the best ways to navigate that is what you do during the day. Sometimes we are busy ignoring how we really feel and not giving ourselves permission to truly feel our feelings. Because we don't feel safe to do that. We may not have a therapist to help us do that. We may not have a coach to help us do that. We may not have healthy friends and family to help us do that. And you see, I'm mentioning those things because they are important. And so without those, it can be really difficult at night when it's much more quiet. Of course, during the day, think you're moving, you're shaking, there's stuff to keep your attention, but many of those things fall away at night, and then it's just you left with your thoughts. So, what I would say in response to that is really leaning into developing your mental fitness, doing exercises like the ones that I shared with you. Also, if you're not in therapy, finding a really good therapist to help you have a safe place to offload some of the emotional distress and things that you really do need to share during the day so that you can have a more restful sleep. I would also say when you are preparing for bed, it can be really helpful to do some of the exercises that we did together today to sort of prepare your mind and body to rest and recharge. Journaling can also be really helpful as well, especially if you get woken up in the middle of the night. Journaling, sort of getting all of those feelings and emotional emotions out. Journal speak is something that you might want to look into as well with Nicole Sachs. That has been really helpful for a number of my clients in the past. And I journal quite a bit. And so I know the value of that. So those are some things that can help. So someone else asked, how can we manage intrusive thoughts? So sort of along the same lines as the way I answered the last question, these things that are coming up, it can feel just so overwhelming. And I know it's so frustrating when it feels like these thoughts are not yours. And I do want you to understand that you are not your thoughts. I want to say that again. You are not your thoughts. Those are not even necessarily your thoughts. They could be things that you read, they could be things that you heard, could be stuff that you saw. It's not even necessarily things that you yourself think for real or believe. And so sometimes even just having that bit of distance and understanding that you're not your thoughts can be super helpful. Those thoughts are like a parade. And, a parade is fine. Some of the floats that go down the parade, they're god awful. You're like, why are y'all in this parade? And some of the floats that go down, like, oh man, that's really pretty. But what you never want to do while you are watching a parade is grab a majorette. It's always a bad idea. And in this instance, grabbing a majorette would be grabbing one of those thoughts and holding on to it and like, what is this? What's going on? No, the parade comes to a halt when you do that. Okay. But when we just let things float by and don't jump on them and attach ourselves to them, we are much better off. So that's easier said than done. I know you're thinking, like, Aziza, that's great, but how am I gonna do that? You have to develop your mental fitness. You have to learn how to control where your mind goes. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be in control 24 hours a day. That's never going to happen, no matter how much you engage in mental fitness. That's never going to happen. But what is going to happen is more often than not, you are going to be able to bring yourself back to where you want to be. You are going to be able to notice those intrusive thoughts and center yourself back where you want to be. That takes practice. That takes repetition. The reason that you struggle with those thoughts is because they repetitiously come. And so to untangle from that, we have to repetitiously center ourselves back where we want to be. Something that can be really helpful with that is I ask people to take a saboteur assessment. It's a free assessment that I send you from Positive Intelligence. And it really helps you to see how often your brain is working for you versus against you. And it is entirely possible to turn the tide where you are actually the one who is more in control of where your brain continues to go. You cannot help the first thought that comes up. It's no big deal. You really can keep it from advancing to a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, hundredth time of repeating the same nonsense that's making you feel overwhelmed. Another thing I wanted to point out is sometimes we feel so upset with anxiety and we think that it is such a bad thing that we don't pay attention to what it's trying to tell us. So, for instance, when I wanted to start my business, I kept having this repeated thought, well, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to pay for that? How are you going to take care of this, that, and the third? And I kept saying, I'm just anxious about this. I have to push it out of my mind and keep moving forward until I realized one day, wait a minute, those are some valid questions and they keep coming up. So if the same question keeps coming up over and over and over again, it may be a valid question that deserves your attention. That valid question may be coming from the present version of you, like it was for me at that time. I genuinely needed to know what I was going to do, how I was going to pay for X, Y, and Z. And I needed to research and I needed to learn what to do. And once I did that, I felt much better. The anxiety subsided because it was really just letting me know, hey, you're ignoring a part of you. You're misaligned. This was a valid question and you just pushed it to the side. And so now it's repetitiously coming because you haven't acknowledged it. Sometimes the question is coming from your little self. There's a younger version of you that is afraid and needs your attention. And we need to pause and find out what this little person wants to know so that we can be compassionate to that part of ourselves. So that we can be compassionate to that part of ourselves instead of trying to throw logic at it and say, well, I'm going to be fine. I know I'm going to be okay. I've been through this before. Nothing's going to hurt me. Yeah. That usually does not make people feel better. Okay. And so I do want to also point something out because somebody asked in the chat about this too. When do you just push through? I can't remember who said that, but it was a little bit ago. So when do you just fight through though? Okay. So there are times when you are just going to fight through. I want to make sure that we're clear about that. It would be if you're in a burning building, somebody's drowning and you're trying to save them, or you're trying to save yourself. Someone's in a burning car and you're trying to pull them out. There's a car on top of somebody and you have to try to lift it or whatever. Basically, during an emergency, that is when you would want to just push through. So that is not sustainable. If you are just pushing through every single day, all day long, you are going to burn yourself out. Do you all know what I mean? Okay. Yep. Yep. Feeling that now. Yes, I totally get that. So if the whole just push through, pull yourself pull yourself up by your bootstraps, whatever it is, what you're usually doing is you're hearing the voice of someone older than you from when you were little, and that's how they used to talk to you. And so now that's how you talk to you. And if that works for you, you probably wouldn't be coming to a workshop like this. You're coming here because it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, you need to find another way to do it. You don't just keep trying to force a square peg into a round hole. If it doesn't fit, then fix it. You have to stop. You have to pull back. You have to get the support and the help that you need so that you can do better. Whew. All right, all right, all right. These have been some really amazing questions. I'm just super grateful for you all. Um so I that just hit me. I just wanted to tell you just how much gratitude I have for you. Another question here. I have such a problem with allowing negative what ifs to invade my headspace, especially in regards to my search for a better career. What else can I do to block these thoughts? So this is a really, really great question. One of the things about negative what ifs is that it can really just make us feel like there's no possible way for us to do better, for us to change things or whatever. And developing your mental fitness is certainly going. Part of that is making sure that you upgrade your what ifs. Okay. But you want to make sure that you're doing that from the right version of you. So if you try to force that, so what the person asked was like, how do I block these thoughts? You don't need to, you don't need to block them. It's totally okay that they're there. We need to have compassion for those thoughts because there's a genuine fear and a hurt and a worry and a concern. And we want to acknowledge that. Uh, I want to help you see that in a really tangible way. If a child comes to you and says they're scared about something, and instead of acknowledging that they've been hurt or that they're scared or worried, you give them all this logic, um, it usually doesn't help that kid feel any better. So I'm going to ask you all a collective question in regards to this. There's two scenarios. Scenario one, kid A tells parent A that they are afraid and there's a monster under their bed, and they are really scared and they've run into the parent's room and they said, there's something under my bed. As soon as I turn my light out, something, I could see something, under the bed trying to hurt me. Right. And parent A says, there's nothing under your bed. Go back in your room and go to sleep. End of scenario A. Okay. Or one. So, scenario B, kid runs into their parents' room and says, oh my God, something's under my bed. I think something's trying to get me. I'm really scared. And parent B says, oh no, I bet that is pretty scary. Did you see it? No, I didn't see it, but I'm really, I think I heard it. You think you heard something. Okay. Yeah, I know that probably would have really scared me too. Do you want me to go in there with you to see if anything's still in there? Yeah, yeah. Can you come in there with me? So parent B goes in, turns the light on, looks under the bed, says, you want to get down here with me and look under the bed with me to make sure nothing's in here? Okay, I don't see anything in here. All right, let me check your closet and make sure there's nothing in your closet. Okay, I don't see anything in the closet. You know what? Maybe it ran in the drawers. Let's check in the drawers. Open them up. Let's see if there's anything in there. And the kid and the parent realize there's nothing in there. And the parent says, would it be helpful if we left the night on for you? Or are you okay with me turning the light off and maybe just leaving your door open so if something happens, you can come tell me? Into scenario B. Now, which one of those scenarios are you more familiar with from your childhood? Let me see what we got in the chat. The first one, where the parent told him to turn the light off, go sleep, or B, where the parent was compassionate, listened to the child, validated the child's concern, and showed emotional care for them. Okay, there we go. So some people said A and B. There we go. That's really good. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. Okay, seeing a lot of A's, and maybe just one or two B's. So for those of you who said A and B, that basically your parents flip-flopped on you, you never know which one you were going to get. Yeah, that can lead to a lot of trust issues when you get older. I'm not going to ask you if y'all got trust issues, but it can lead to trust issues when you have like a Jekyll and Hyde parent, um, parent who is suffering from mental illness. It usually is the case around that, where they're kind of going back and forth. You don't know which parent you're actually going to get. It can be very destabilizing for a child. Yeah, it can be very destabilizing to not know which one you're going to get. And you probably, as an adult, are that way with your own self and probably others, but definitely with your own self. Sometimes you can be really supportive and compassionate to yourself, and other times you just want to beat your own ass. So I totally get that. Yeah, absolutely. And if you primarily grew up with a parent that was like the A scenario, you probably push yourself through anxiety. You shouldn't be worried about this. It's not a big deal. Put on your big girl panties, put on your big boy pants, you'll be fine. Yeah, absolutely. And what I would say is that the best way to navigate these thoughts is one, to use them as your superpower, to use them as a way to develop your mental fitness, acknowledging those feelings and showing yourself compassion each and every time, or as many times as you possibly can. And be gentle with yourself when you forget to show yourself compassion. It's going to happen. It is okay. We all do it. We all forget to show ourselves compassion sometimes. You cannot do this wrong. If you are doing it at all, if you are endeavoring to do it at all, you are doing it right. So thank you so much for those questions. All right, my good people. So we are about to go ahead and wrap it up. I thank you so much for your questions. Again, some of you all have asked privately, sent private messages and in the public chat, how do you get a session with me so you can learn more about this, so you can put more of this into action. I am so grateful that you all want to do that. I would love to talk to you more about this. So, you've got a couple of different opportunities. One, you can always listen to the Aziza Binti Live podcast, as I mentioned before. This is Rocky. This is my puppy nephew, my puppy. He is the anxiety superpower mascot now and forevermore. And my little buddy says that you need to listen to his TT's podcast. That's right. Okay. So you need to listen to that podcast. If you want to hear some audio recordings, the No BS affirmations, which is all about affirmations you can actually believe, because sometimes we saying stuff, we do not believe it, and then we're not going to keep up with it. So there's the No BS affirmations. You can also listen to some recordings with the PQ reps that we did together today. There's also tons of other topics on there with really helpful ways to navigate this thing we call life. And so I would love for you all to listen to that. You can listen to it on all podcasts, major podcast platforms, Spotify, Spreaker, Apple, whatever. It's all over the place. And if you are interested in getting your superpower strength session, you can do so at azizabinti.com, and you can sign up for your free superpower strength session. There is no obligation to continue coaching. The likelihood that you're going to want to sign up is pretty freaking high. I'm just being honest with you, just being honest. But it is a great opportunity for you to learn a bit more about this on a personal level for you. This was a big overview and covered a lot of different topics, but we also know that learning about what's going on with you in particular and really having somebody safe to share those things with is hugely important. And so that is available for you for a limited time. Those sessions are absolutely free. Your first session is absolutely free. If you want to continue to move forward, then we can always talk about that. But your first session is free of charge. There's no cash being exchanged. However, what I will say is it does cost your time, your energy. You're making an investment in you. So making sure that you show up on time, making sure that you show up fully and give your best to the space so that I can absolutely give you my best, because you certainly deserve it. Speaking of what you deserve, you all deserve another round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love that you showed up for yourself today. I love the questions that you all asked. Oh my God, it was so amazing. These questions are so dope. Okay. I also want to thank you for being willing to ask questions that maybe somebody else had and they might have been afraid to ask. That's huge. The last one, the same thing happened. People messaged me. They were like, oh, I'm so glad this person asked this question. So thank you so much for being willing to play full out, to be open and honest and vulnerable, and also being willing to support other people in the chat. I love how you all had each other's back. That was so dope. So thank you so much for being your absolutely best, amazing self. This is really just beautiful for me because I am certainly answering the calling on my life to serve in this way. I never imagined years ago that in my darkest time that I would be able to help other people see the light in themselves, help other people to feel loved, loving, lovable, dope, amazing, creative, fun, wonderful, and worthy. I get to do this for a living, darling. It's amazing. So thank y'all. I appreciate you so much. I hope to see you zizabinti.com for your session. If you want to skip the superpowers session and jump straight into becoming a client, no. You get to have your free session right up at the beginning so that we can both get to know one another, and so that I know that I'm the absolute best person to support you and that you are ready to do these awesome things together. So please make sure you sign up for your superpower strength session, whether you want to become a full-time client or not. Please get your complimentary session right at the beginning. You deserve that. It is my thank you to you for even considering starting on this journey, because trust me, it's not for the faint of heart. It is for those who are ready to heal and understand, embrace, and experience their wholeness. Please be sure to check out the podcast as well and share it with your friends and family. I have some amazing affirmations and meditations on there. And I'm talking about meditations for the way that we live life now, okay? It's on some real stuff. So I love you all. Thank you so much for your time. Thank y'all for all of these comments. Thank you for all of the love in the chat, all these hearts, all these thank yous. Oh my God. I'm so, 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 so grateful. All right, y'all. I'm about to head out. It's your girl, Coach Aziza B. Peace.